While most people think of their favorite actors and celebrities as living their life, driving fancy cars and having all the fun, the truth can be quite far from that. In this video, we will look at 6 South African actors who have gone through traumatic experiences and how hard it was for them, and hopefully inspire some to speak up and others to see how vulnerable and human their favorite actors and stars really are. Now, without further ado, if you're new, subscribe, and if you're returning, thank you for doing so. Also, feel free to share your thoughts with us. We would love to hear your views. Number 1. Nalin Tibeti. Nalin Tibeti is famously known for her acting in TV shows such as Uzalo as Zegatelo and Ashes to Ashes. However, on top of being an actress, she's a qualified chemical engineer and has engineered her own lip gloss product, making her an entrepreneur on top of that. She was born on the 8th of September 1980, so she's only 42 years old today. As strong as Nalin looks to her viewers, she has been through the worst of the worst experiences ever. In an interview with Sowetan Live, Nalin revealed how she suffered from physical abuse from her boyfriend, whom she dated for 8 years. The journey was very difficult for her and it took a lot of years and courage build-up to finally leave the relationship. In the interview, Nalin opens up about her traumatic experience, saying she ignored so many red flags to the relationship. She argued that men who come from families of domestic violence are more likely to repeat the behavior to their partners, and this was the case with her boyfriend, who told her about seeing his own mother being beaten. Nalin argued that it was of great importance for young ladies to not ignore any red flags whatsoever and to support one another. We are glad she was able to leave the relationship, an empowerment to those going through the same thing. Number 2. Hungani Ndlovu. On our number 2, we put Hungani Ndlovu for a reason. The inter-partner perpetuated violence in heterosexual relationships is almost always associated with men, and for a good statistical reason. However, men aren't the only ones perpetuating violence. There are some women doing the same, and it is far worse and harder for men to report than for women. Hungani was one of those unfortunate men who suffered abuse at the hands of his partner. These abuses happened while he was still studying abroad in the United States with his then lover. The person is not named according to internet sources. However, Hungani broke the news in an interview with Drum magazine on the 7th of December 2017. Hungani was in Los Angeles at the time, and his relationship was 1 year and 6 months old. His then lover was not abusive in the first year. However, in the last 6 months of the relationship, she started showing another side, a side he never thought she had. According to Hungani, the girl started hitting him, and regardless of background culture of not hitting women, Hungani ended up retaliating. Hungani had to buy bio-oil skin products to hide the scars from the public, and after 1 year and 6 months of enduring the physical abuse, he decided to call it quits. The scars still linger in his psyche till this day and has affected how he perceived relationships after that. Well, at least until he met Stephanie. According to Hungani, Stephanie Sandos helped him to see the brighter side of love, the caring and kind side of it. He's also part of an organization that helps men to speak out on domestic violence, as it is extremely difficult for men to do so. If you have a somewhat similar experience, feel free to share your story. It's not often that people get to be heard. Number 3. Nelissi Recibilia. Nelissi is one such celebrity who quickly rose to fame with a very fast and rapid acceleration. She started off acting at Durban, where she plays Dr. Mbali Mthethwa. Nelissi wasn't into acting at first. She was actually a singer and was the lead singer in Umama Gabafana in 2018. Then in 2020, her big break came when she was casted in Durban. She was an instant fave of millions, and now she has over 1 million followers on Instagram. She also embraces the Zulu culture a lot. While most assume she's from the KwaZulu-Natal province, Nelissi was born in Johannesburg and her childhood was really painful. When Nelissi was only 8 years old, she witnessed the death of her father by a gunshot wound. As a result, she and her sister had to be raised by people who weren't her parents. While the Wikipedia article claims that those people were her aunt and her uncle, Sibia herself has not revealed who they were in any known article. The surviving information is from her interviews with Times Live. Regardless of the ambiguity in who did this, Sibia suffered physical abuse from the man she and her sister lived with. However, Sibia maintains it was just physical and nothing more, but claims that for her sister it was probably more, since she had to do certain things for the man not to kick them out of the house. Sibia also talked extensively on how difficult it is for victims to first of all report or to even leave such hostile situations, arguing that the more you experience it, the weaker your willpower becomes and you end up losing your fighting spirit. Moreover, Nelissi will spend a good deal of time finding it hard to trust men enough to even date them, considering her experience. She also urged women to talk to someone, to just find one person you can tell your traumas and reveal your scars, as that was centrally important to her healing. She continues to champion the activism and argues that activism against violence on women and children is an everyday struggle and not just a 16 days thing. Number 4. Nozizwa Tsetsi. Pretty much everyone in South Africa has seen her face somewhere, either on TV playing Zinzile's sister Pindile or as Knox on Deep City. In real life, however, she is quite human and has gone through the worst experiences, as most of us. We are happy to inform you that she survived. Tsetsi was born in Port Shepstone, KwaZulu-Natal. She is only 28 years old as of 2022. Even though some sources pointed an older age of 38, we know she is only 28 years old because she was born in 1994 in October. Technically still 27 at the release time of this video. Tsetsi had both a disturbing childhood and early adulthood experiences. She grew up witnessing the abuse of her mother. This left her scarred psychologically, so she grew up with a flawed understanding of what love is. That she inherited the same violence. When Nozizwa met her first boyfriend, she was a very young woman. The relationship was great at first, as they all go. But later on, the guy just flipped into some monster and started abusing her. Nozizwa barely saw anything wrong with this at first, as she thought that's what love was like. However, on another fateful day, she was going to her acting job when the guy tried to scratch her face. That's when she knew it was time to go, as this was her only way to make a living. Her entire work revolves around the preservation of her face, so she called it quits. Moreover, years later, Nozizwa looked back and saw the experience differently and knows that that wasn't love. Her story brings a very strong caution of how violence can be inherited, as seen similarly in Tibeti's story, who, her boyfriend, inherited his violence from his parents. So parents should also be careful not to show their fights to their children, as it affects both how they perceive perpetrating violence and how they perceive the infliction of violence upon themselves. Number 5. Israel Mateke Zulu. It's very common in our society to blame young misguided boys who smoke and have thrown away their lives as the cause of their own problems. But if you've been paying attention, you'll realize that things aren't so simple. It's not so black and white as we might want to think. As with Israel Mateke, the former convict was a hooligan, a thief, and a young misguided boy who was troublesome. He was arrested in 1996 for carjacking and housebreaking charges. Zulu was incarcerated for 3 years before his release in 1999. However, after his release, he dared not to go back to his former ways, but started pursuing a street life. Before we get into all that street talk, let's rewind a bit. Mateke Zulu was born in Alexandra, Johannesburg, an informal settlement outside of Sandton. The influence of that place misled him. However, it wasn't just the place. His propensity and predilection to crime was caused predominantly by his upbringing. While most look at his arrest as something fundamentally reflective of his character, Mateke was only 12 years old when he first got arrested. Moreover, he was also raised by his stepdad, whom he says was very abusive to him, and that affected him a lot. In fact, as a result of this abuse, Mateke changed his surname from Makoi, his father's surname, to Mateke, which was more innate to his mother's side. Zulu is his father's surname. Number 6. Ntando Duma. Duma Ntando is one of South Africa's most cheerful personalities, famously known for her presenting legacy and her ETV role as Zinzi on Rhythm City. And no, she doesn't have a twin. That's just her older sister Ntando Duma. I know, similar names and similar faces, but no guys, that's not it. So, as much as you know her to be cheerful and always smiling, Duma has a lot of demons that haunt her. She grew up in Soweto, and her family struggled a lot due to her drinking father and his abusive behaviors. Her father was heavily abusive to her mother, then to her and her sister. It was serious gender-based violence, as he took advantage of the all-round femininity of the household. But it only got worse. When Ntando was around the age of 5 or 6, she had to be moved to her other relatives. This was because their father nearly killed all of them. He came back from work drunk and tried to burn the whole shack down. After she was moved to Orange Farm, Duma would only see her mother only on weekends. As for her father, she saw less and less of him until he disappeared. Then, when she was 13 years old, in 2008, Duma's father died, and according to Duma, it wasn't settling for her as he was barely a father to them. She was later taken in by a relative who put her through high school. Fast forward to 2022, Ntando is famous and rich and even built herself a house and has a very expensive car. So not even a dark background can tower the possibility of a bright future. However, the events of her experiences still haunt her daily, as she said in the interview with Times Live. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you like such content, please subscribe to our YouTube channel for more.